Hi guys, this is a bit of a sort of in-between. Let me just get something. I'm well through working on the acute sharpening thingy on the parallelogram. I've had loads of hassles actually. I'll describe those within the video when I get far enough and put it together for you. Still got a bit to do, some milling and stuff. But in the meantime, just one or two odds and ends. One of which I rediscovered this quite some time ago. It's actually called a quick test, made in Germany. I have a sneaking feeling my dear father, long ago when he was alive and in business, he was in the aluminum trade. I have a feeling this might have been his, and it had got put to the back in my measuring instruments drawer. It measures from 0 to 0.2, 200. It's only for a quick check, but here's a piece of scrap. If I put that in, try and hold it properly. I'm trying to see with the reflection. Hang on. Can we see the needle? Yeah, I think you can. And that's between 04 and 06. It's basically 050, which would be 18 gauge. So nice for a quick check, and thought you might be interested. I've never seen one elsewhere. Other folks may have something. So anyway, let me just check a minute what I was going to mention. I haven't been in here for a couple of days, and today's heated up a bit much. But the old back and hip have been pretty silly. Yeah, today it was pretty hot, and I biked over to see my son for lunch. Dragged the boy out of his office. He's up to his eyes in work, but we had a very pleasant lunch and a bit of BS. But coming back, I tell you what, I'm not sure how long I can ride the bike anymore. My hip was just going crazy, and at the moment I'm on my left side, so it's not so bad, but not trying to make a big deal of it. But everybody's got their physical nuisances. It gets worse as you get older. But anyway, that's enough ramble. What I was going to mention, and which is going to follow, it's a bit of footage I took about a week or more ago, I think. Guy came in with a problem, which I think I describe in the video clip. So I won't go into too much detail. Basically, it was a 7/8 thread on a large steering pin, and they couldn't get a nut on it, and they couldn't even start a die. So we brought it round and we did some work on it. Had to put it in the lathe, set up the cutting tool as accurately as possible into the V of the thread, just using cross slide. The thing I did notice, and you will probably see it yourself, I was a bit surprised when I looked at one bit of footage. The damage to the thread was such that the tool was taking sort of one cut per revolution almost, and I was concerned to see apparently quite a bit of movement in the compound and cross slide. Obviously it's a lot different from taking a regular constant cut, and I was only taking fairly small increments, but you could see something moving. So my to-do list, apart from the fact I mentioned, or have mentioned already in the work on the acute system parallelogram, I've become aware that my 3-jaw chuck jaws are going to have to be ground. I'm going to have to bite the bullet, cover everything up, get a good grind inside, true them up. They've got a bit of bell mouthing, which I don't think is entirely due to me, because I hate tightening the jaws on the front edge. It's bad news, but it is an old chuck, had lots of use. That's one chore, and the other thing now I think is I'm going to have to check my compound and cross-slide Gibbs screws. Have a fairly careful appraisal of that, because there must be a bit of movement somewhere. I mean, there's backlash in the lead screw aspect, but this other bit of movement, a bit concerning. And it's an old machine. I think I said before, it's back from the 50s, very old really. Anyway, that's it, enough of my ramblings. I'll follow this with this little bit of repair I did on the pin, which incidentally, I don't know whether I mentioned in the, hang on, got to change position here. I don't know whether I mentioned in the clip, because I haven't checked it. There was a Zerk fitting in the old one, and I immediately said to the guy, oh well, we'll swap that over and put it on the new one, because you have to pump grease into the bore of this thing so it oozes out in appropriate places. Funny thing was, although it was a used pin, it had a hole but no thread. And when I mic'd it up and checked the thread on the Zerk fitting, or grease nipple as we used to call them, it came out at 5/16 22, which is BSF, British Standard Fine. So it had a national course on the main end of the thing, and this Zerk was the BSF. And the hole was ready for tapping. So I tapped it, we got the Zerk fitting in. That was just a sort of bonus really. Right, reiterating, that's enough old man, get on with the program. Oh, this is just an incidental. Somebody just came in with a steering pin. I'll try and get that in frame there. Oh, I may not focus. He's got a replacement one of these. It's still used, but the problem was the nut. Got a new nut here. It's UNF 7814, but it wouldn't go on. So on inspection, we found that the thread is messed up at this end. The first three, probably the first three. So what I'm doing, I've reset as well as I can onto the thread form, and I'm only using the cross slide, and I'm staying engaged. I'm staying engaged on the lead screw, coming back to get rid of backlash, and then I'm just coming into it, just touches, and then we're more or less clear of the trouble. So I'm just working my way through on that to zero is about the main thread. Take another 3 thou there. I just thought I'd throw this in out of interest. I forget who it was. I think it was Tubal Cane demonstrated how to pick up a thread when you get screwed up in between or something. And this is just a clean-up or an attempt at it. You hear that? Just odd little cuts. I've got to take a few more of those. And try and get it clean. I'll come up to another 2.5 or so. I'm turning by hand. Once the nut's on, it comes back all the way down, so this is just the starting phase. I'll come up to 90, see if we can... it's only touching it, part of the turn, like there. That was quite marked. So we're not after perfect results, just a case of getting the nut started. Come back in 91. Going 90, 93. We might nearly have got rid of enough. I'm just taking a few more passes just to make sure. Let's try 94. Incidentally, the heat's back for today. It's had a nice break in the weather until today, which is still fresher, but the trouble is the sun's out. And this morning the shop was quite nice. Right, we're at 95. '97. You can probably hear that cutting, I'm not sure. Another couple of passes, then we'll try the nut. 98. Right, one more. Sorry, I keep adjusting my headband because of sweat pouring off. Let's try 0. Alright, a bit of wire brush. It's still a bit tight. Let's see if it'll go. Pretty close. Probably take another couple of clean-ups, but that basically seems to have cleaned that up. Somebody must have whacked the end and they've turned the thread over a bit. So just an incidental there. Alright, just a little finish off on that bit of thread repair. I'd forgotten, I didn't show the hole at the end which I tapped. That's incidental really. I was thinking, having run that clip through and looking at the movement, although I'm going to check the Gibbs screws, that's obviously one thing I must check, but thinking about it, bearing in mind I've got significant backlash on the cross slide, as we come into the thread and get that intermittent cut, it is fairly obviously going to take up that little bit of extra backlash, because there's no pressure on the cutting tool as we advance towards the thread, and then we catch the thread that doesn't need cutting, then we hit the plus area, and I think actually I'm going to blame the lead screw as much as anything else, but I shall check the Gibbs screws. That's give me an excuse to check them thoroughly. The backlash I can't do much about, although at some point I intend to take the lead screw nut out, although it's I replaced that lead screw and nut long ago, but I think it's time to slit the nut, drill and tap, and just take up a smidgen, you know, the old trick to tighten the lead screw nut. It's a brass one obviously, and it took quite a bit of making long ago. But anyway, we'll check on that. So more rambling. You must notice I ramble terribly. Anyway, that's it, and I'm hoping to get back to the acute sharpening system stuff over the next day or two, although we're still getting a final sort of heat wave, so I'll eventually get that together hopefully, and record a little bit of the milling. There's one thing, no, I'll add that when I get to that video. So anyway, that incidental bit of material for you. Thanks for watching.